Hello everybody and welcome to our fourth virtual lecture brought to us today by Cian Manning, a name that is familiar to some of you. Cian is an independent researcher based in Waterford City. He has previously contributed to Pogue Mogul, Football Pink, BTLM, IrishBoxing.com and History Ireland. Cian has provided book reviews for Sport in US History and a Sports Book Review. He has previously contributed articles of a historical interest to League of Ireland clubs Cork City and Cove Ramblers for their match day programmes. His first book was published in 2019 by History Press on Waterford City, and his next is to mark the centenary of the Waterford and District Junior League in 2024. He has an upcoming cover feature for Ireland's own covering of the Waterford connections of Sherlock Holmes creator Arthur Conan Doyle. Cian was recently invited to join the studies group of the Irish American Baseball Society, which explores the Irish connections with America's great pastime. Currently, he is researching the history of the Olympia Rink, or Roller Hockey League in Waterford. As you may have guessed by now, Cian is mad about sports history and is now going to give us the life of Patrick Joseph Mahon, Forgotten World #1 golfer. Over to you, Cian.
Hi, Cian Manning here. Firstly, I would like to thank the Waterford Archaeological and Historical Society for including me in the Society's first series of virtual talks. Some hard acts to follow, such as Erica Fay, David Robson and Conor Donegan, which can still be viewed on the Waterford Archaeological and Historical Society YouTube page. We've really gone full-blown 21st century with this technological endeavours. This virtual lecture would not have come to pass without the support and encouragement of Beatrice Poirier and Donica O'Callaghan. A great deal of gratitude to the help and generosity of Cliona Purcell, whose expertise have been vital to the presentation you will see tonight. And I'm sure she will not want another text message or email from me concerning microphones again in the future. Also, don't forget to check out Cliona's wonderful blog under the banner of Waterford Treasures, which has many insightful articles concerning everything from hot chocolate, coffee, alcohol, and more debauchery-filled journeys in the history of Waterford City and County. I would also like to thank my golfing buddies, obviously pre-COVID-19 pandemic, those being Tomás de Puer, Gavin King, Craig Russell and Owen Walsh for their support in the research of Patrick Joseph Mahon, which I will be delivering tonight. Finally, thanks is also due to the support of Paul Gorry, a genealogist. Many of you would know Paul well as the author of the Genealogist Handbook, and finally to Brian Keogh of Irish Golf Desk, who published my original research on Mahon on the 2nd of October 2020, and it can be still viewed on that page today. Now, finally, as we begin to kick off, or should I say now, let's tee off. Patrick Joseph Mahon was born around 1906 or 1907 and named after his father. There are a number of P.J. Mahons noted as small farmers, labourers and fishermen. We do know his father was recorded as working in insurance and living at Laytown when he received slight injuries when hit by a motor vehicle while cycling in September 1937. One certainty, though, was that the younger Patrick, also known as Paddy, was educated at Mount Sion CBS in the heart of Waterford City. Paddy's brother Charlie attended the same school and excelled academically, receiving a scholarship with CIE. At one stage, it appeared that Paddy would become a railway clerk. They later lived in the Glen, just a short distance from the city's quays. Yet, Paddy Mahon was to follow a different career path completely by becoming a professional golfer. We know as a young man, Mahon caddied in Tramore and Waterford and was a student of P.J. O'Sullivan, later captain of Tramore Golf Club. His first steps into golf as a career was as an assistant professional of Waterford Golf Club, This was followed by professional positions at Rathdowney, then Birr County Offaly, and eventually settling at the Royal Dublin Club around 1934. Paddy wasn't the only member of his family to leave a mark on the Irish golf scene. His brother J.A. Mahon would take up duties at the Castlebar Links in April 1938, while 2 years later his other brother C.P. competed at the Irish Close Championship in June 1940. Mahon was of diminutive stature, reaching 5'3" in height and weighing 9.5 stone. Yet, the Irish Independent noted that few players of his time had greater length with a wooden club. Mahon stressed to the Irish press that the core aspect of his game was timing, and that the power comes from the hips. A later showing at the Irish Professional Championships in August 1944 saw the press reminisce that the strength of Mahon was his driving showed all of unique sweetness, while he hardly raises his left heel off the ground in the back swing, a technique which he did not pass on to his students. His style was noted as one possessed by few professional golfers, with pitching and approach play at great strength. His weakness was putting, and later in his career stamina and confidence would become issues which impeded him from destroying the field and claiming more championships and tournaments. When his putting was going well, it was described by McRee as he seems to slide the ball on the green very smoothly and very surely, though the Irish press believed he had the unfortunate habit of shooting the whole works on the first couple of rounds and blowing up after that. Yet the Irish Independent again noted that Mahon had a cheerful temperament which was unruffled by success or failure. Now, just before we proceed with this slide, I just want to point out that the picture of the gentleman wearing the red shirt is Damien McGrain, and he is holding the Irish Professional Championship trophy. So you can imagine this was one of the competitions in which our Paddy Mahon was competing for. From 1932 to 1936, Mahon finished runner-up 4 times at the Irish Professional Championship. This included runner-up in 1932 at Royal Dublin and in 1933 at Castle Rock. In the former year, Mahon represented Ireland in matches against England and Scotland. His best performance at a major British tournament came in 1934 when he finished in a 5-way tie for 4th place at the Dunlop Southport tournament held at Southport and Ansdale Golf Club. Mahon made his first appearance in the Open Championship in a quest for the Claret Jug, but missed the cut by a single stroke. His first round of 72 had him placed in tied 10th. The same year, he moved from Birr to Royal Dublin Golf Club and was the start of his greatest performances to come for the remainder of the decade. In 1935, he won the Western Isles Championship, we would probably know today as North of Scotland, on Islay, from a field comprised of American and British players. This made him the first Irish professional to bring a British title across the Irish Sea. His aggregate score of 283 saw him 4 shots ahead of the chasing pack to claim the prize of 150 guineas. The Glasgow Herald concluded that Mahon was one of the most promising young professional golfers that Ireland has produced since the war. 2 weeks later, Mahon competed at the 70th Open Championship at Muirfield and hit an impressive first round of 71 to place tied 7th on 1 under par. However, his challenge would fade as he would finish the tournament and tied for 40th place. It was certainly a breakthrough year, which was a signal of further success to come in the following 2 years. It is acknowledged that Mahon's peak years were from 1936 to 37. The latter year was to prove his most golden. In 36, Mahon qualified for the Daily Mail tourney, which he would finish in tied 27th, and he went on to win the Dunlop Irish Tournament at Royal Belfast with an aggregate score of 298. Mahon's quest to qualify for another Open Championship started well with an opening round of 73, but heavy rain led to the abandoning of play and the earlier scores in qualifying cancelled. His last 2 rounds of 78 saw him miss qualifying by a single stroke. Once more, Mahon finished runner-up in the Irish Professional Championship, finishing 4 shots behind Joe McCartney. At the same time, Mahon's brother J.A., then an amateur at Birr, made a hole-in-one with his tee shot at the 125-yard 12th at Galway. September 1936 saw Paddy finish third at the Morecambe Penfold Northern Open Championship, 6 shots behind winner Percy Ellis, whose portrait you can see in the current slide. Paddy Mahon opened his remarkable 1937 season with a tied for third finish at the Daily Mail tournament. His golfing ability was further illustrated in April 37 when he finished as runner-up in the Silver King £1,000 professional golf tournament at Moore Park, Rickmansworth. Mahon was one off the lead, the winner being former Open champion Henry Cotton, who you can see with his club on display in our slide. In relation to Mahon, the Royal Dublin golfer's skill and in-luck was typified by his play on the 16th hole. The former Mount Sion student needed 2 shots under par from the remaining 3 holes to claim a momentous victory. This appeared against the odds on the 480 yards, which was uphill and had to be played against the wind. The Irish press recorded that Mahon's seemingly frail physique appeared to be unequal to the task, but he put all his heart into a glorious brassy shot which finished on the green, and the problematic 4 seemed a certainty. Having put himself in position for the win, his 4-foot putt ran around the lip of the hole to stay on the edge, meaning a 5th stroke was needed and thus ending his chance of winning. This was far from a failure though, as the Irish press concluded that it was one of the best performances by an Irish golfer up to that point. Returning to Dublin with a £100 cheque for his efforts at Rickmansworth seemed to signal bigger things ahead, and the possible departure of Mahon from being a regular presence on the Irish golfing circuit. One of his most notable rounds of his greatest year was his 66 second round on the Heathcote course at Southport in the Dunlop Southport £1,600 tournament, which he finished in a more than respectable 6th place. Mahon was being touted as making the Ryder Cup team for 1937. George Duncan was being suggested as a non-playing captain, as he was supposed to have the Indian sign over Walter Hagen, his US counterpart, while the likes of Henry Cotton, Charles and Reggie Wickham, Dick Burton and Doll Rees were all nailed on to make the team. Paddy Mahon was considered a certainty only for the issue of the residency rule. The Ryder Cup deed of trust had been reviewed and revised to stipulate that players had to be born in and resident in their respective countries. The deed referred to Great Britain, which the PGA took as a literal interpretation of excluding those born and living in Ireland. Thus, the Royal Dublin golfer missed out on selection as the American team claimed their first Ryder Cup victory in Britain. If Mahon had been selected, he would have been the first Irish golfer to play in the prestigious event. And of course, being a Mount Sion man, I would say that if they had selected Mahon, of course, they would have won.
There's Gene Saracen, US and British Open champion in 1932. Dyer Rees, the baby Welshman, who's one of the coming stars. And Alfred Padgham, the present British Open champion. America has so far never won in this country, and we've never won in America. But this year the spell is broken. On a cold, rain-soaked day, America retains the Ryder Cup by 8 matches to 4. But at any rate, there's warmth in the smile of US captain Walter Hagen, the one and only Walter, who's been receiving cups for more years than he'd care to remember.
Yet, Mahon was not content with just competing at Irish and British tournaments. June 1937 saw him enter the French Open Championship and becoming the first Irish professional to compete in a foreign championship in continental Europe. Mahon travelled from Ireland to Leeds for a tournament at Moortown before making his way to Paris to play at the Saint-Claude course. With an aggregate total of 288, Paddy Mahon finished 10 strokes behind Michel Dalmain, who retained his French title, with Mahon finishing in 6th place. The following month, Mahon defied doctor's orders to play the first day of the qualifying stages for the British Open Championship at Carnoustie. Mahon played a round of 70 at Burnside, which was a new course record at the time. Of this round, the Herald of Glasgow noted that Mahon would probably have been selected in the Ryder Cup team but for his Irish nationality, and who is regarded here as a possible winner. Mahon did make the cut at Carnoustie, as the Munster Express detailed that he suffered from a severe cold, On the first two nights he went straight from the 18th green to bed, and that it was notable that his hand shook as he putted. A consequence of this was that Mahon had to pull out of the Irish Open at Portrush for what was described as a long holiday. The Irish Independent, in recording his absence from the event, highlighted that apart from Henry Cotton, Mahon is the most talked of golfer this year. Nevertheless, statistics published by the Irish Press in July 1937 of professional golfers who had completed 18 rounds or more at major tournaments placed Mahon top of the list with an average of 71.95 strokes over 22 rounds, just a fraction ahead of Open champion Henry Cotton. Of this astonishing statistic, the same publication concluded that Mahon had done much to put Irish golf on the map. He has the distinction of having led the world's greatest golfer over half a season's tournament play. Mahon returned to action in August 1937 to win his first Irish PGA Championship, finishing on an aggregate score of 298, 10 shots ahead of tied second place Jay McCartney and Jay McKenna. It appears Mahon's ability to keep the ball on the fairway with length was key to his success. His increased confidence and improvement in the short game had seen him grow in stature by taking the opportunities which presented themselves. In September, Mahon would finish in second place at the 6,701 yards course of Wentworth, which was won by Arthur Lacey. It was his third round of 68 which brought him into contention as he moved up the leaderboard from 6th place to tied third with that man again, Henry Cotton, going into the final round of play. Mahon's putting again deserted him in a round which saw him 3-putt twice on both the 4th and 12th holes. His final round of 69 saw him as the only player to break 70 twice on the last two rounds. The season saw Mahon finish second in the Harry Vardon Trophy competition with a final average of 71.90, missing out on the prize by 0.28 of a shot behind Charles Wickham. This finish saw him invited to the Penfold Professional Golf League for 1938. He would finish bottom of the 12-man league on 5 points, with 1 win and 3 halved games. Mahon was now giving lectures and lessons on golf in the sports department of Cleary's. He would also contribute articles to the Irish Sports Review concerning golf swing and technique. The Cork Examiner noted in November 1937 that it will be readily conceded that Mahon is the greatest golfer that Ireland has yet produced. Such was his renown, Irish papers of the period frequently had advertisements with Mahon promoting Dub-Tex elasticated trousers. Now, I don't know if this says more about me than it does you, but after this pandemic, I think I'll be buying a pair. It appeared that 1938 would be Mahon's busiest year to date, playing all the big English tournaments, as well as a number of exhibition matches penciled in. Though the heavy schedule would be blamed for his lacklustre performance in finishing runner-up in the Michael Moore Memorial Cup of Royal Dublin to Pat O'Connor. The same year, Mahon married Moira Coleman, and the couple would have 4 children together. At the Open Championship at Royal St George, 18-year-old James Bruin of Muskerry, County Cork, was tied for the lead with shooting a 70 in the first round. Mahon was 3 shots further back. However, the Cork junior would shoot an 80 the next day to miss the cut. Mahon, who was still plagued by health issues, was putting in a gallant performance, being only 7 off the lead. The Evening Echo suggested, as he proved several times last year, he is capable of a very strong finish, and he can be depended upon fully to uphold the prestige of Irish golf. Mahon finished in tied 20th in what would prove to be his best performance at the most prestigious and historic event in world golf. Ill health would appear to plague Mahon for the rest of the decade and into the 1940s. As he battled Fred Daly to win a 4th Irish Professional Championship in a row in August 1940, his challenge faded. Onlooker remarked in the Cork Examiner that the champion showed not alone that it was possible to get good figures, but that it did not require any spectacular efforts to do so. He played run-up shots to every green except at the 16th, where he had to pitch. He was sometimes short, never too strong, and he was always putting for his 4s. They were not the kind of shots you would marvel at in retrospect, but they yielded the figures, and the figures are the only things that matter in the championship. Mahon's subsequent loss of confidence was the most amazing feature of the championship. He missed enough sharp putts to give him the title by several strokes. The Irish press in August 1943 noted an item on the agenda of the Leinster branch of the Golfing Union, which should and will probably be raised at this meeting, is that concerning Paddy Mahon, the Royal Dublin professional, who now finds himself virtually out of a job and certainly without a home. Doubtless, the GUI will give sympathetic consideration to a man who has done so much for Irish golf. Mahon's last great showing came at the Irish Professional Championship, with the Irish press in August 1944 noting his driving showed all its usual, almost unique sweetness. His approach play was grand, and on the green he avoided those lapses which put black marks on the cards of the majority of the players. Mahon was a well-known figure in both Britain and Ireland prior to his untimely death, aged just 38 in 1945. He had won the Irish Professional Championship 3 years in a row, 1937 at Portmarnock, 1938 at Portrush, and 1939 at Bundoran. In the 5 years previous to his first win at Portmarnock, he was runner-up on 4 occasions. His 5 professional wins and being the first Irish golfer to win a tournament in Britain is not a fair reflection of a man who did so much to promote the game and led a path that Fred Daly would follow and surpass subsequently. Perhaps if Mahon had played in the 1937 Ryder Cup, things could have been so very different. His tragically young death has allowed his story to be lost in time, and sadly a young family without a father, the greatest tragedy of them all.